Director Koichi Mashimo has worked on a number of different anime since the mid-70s. However, sometime in the 90s, he suffered a severe skiing accident and he was hospitalized. It was there he had an idea for a new animation studio. Instead of focusing on success and profit, it would be to foster and help animators in a hospital-style approach. And in 1997, he founded B-Train Productions. But with the main goal to help animators, quickly turned into producing franchise shows, adaptations of kids' video games to help promote more toys and such. Hell, they even did Dot Hack Sign, which was one of the first trapped in a video game stories. But Mashimo had a more original idea, an ambitious project that would stretch for almost 7 years. Rather than an ongoing show, it was a trilogy series, connected by themes but each being separate. It was later dubbed the Girls with Guns Trilogy. Noir, Madlax, and El Cazador de la Bruja. Each have unique styles, but enough connections to each other to be called a trilogy. Mainly duo girls with an age difference who are specialized with guns, fighting underground crime syndicates, and mystery amnesia. I only's ever seen a few episodes, so in here, I'm gonna dive into all 3 of them. Starting with the first in 2001, Noir, written by Ryo Tsukimura, a novelist but worked on a number of animes in the 90s and 2000s. Lots of harems, I just realized. Don't let the name fool you, it doesn't have much to do with noir detective movies. Stylistically, it's more in the line of European crime thrillers. I mean, just look at this opening and tell me it's not Saul Bass and James Bond. No, the name Noir comes from an ancient fate of 2 maidens that govern death. The story follows Marielle, a French assassin who gets a cryptic email from Kirika, a Japanese schoolgirl who's being targeted. She also has amnesia and doesn't know why she's so skilled with guns. Marielle agrees to help because of her pendant. Her parents were killed and a similar pendant was there. The show is them tracking down and killing anyone across Europe with connections to the secret organization known as Les Soldats. The show is episodic, more in the vein of Cowboy Bebop, where it's half plot, half episodic. My favorite kind. The plot has enough mystery to keep you invested and just enough standalone episodes to spice it up. The biggest hurdle to overcome is the delivery of the plot. What I just summed up is the first 5 episodes. Yep, still frames and visual exposition are the name of the game. I don't think the show's for everyone. It's slow, but the special kind you rarely see in anime. In a time where anime has to info dump everything that just happens with more telling than showing, Noir just feels so refreshing. There's no internal monologues, no narration, there are actual quiet moments of visual storytelling. It makes the story feel so much more grounded than what it already is. It makes an underground 1,000-year conspiracy with a ridiculous twist feel really engaging. They globetrek across Europe and take down the biggest mafia heads with ease, and it's all so sincere. The mystery of Kirika's identity, who was Noir, and what are the Soldats, it's all really engaging, and it comes from the realism. I'm not trying to say it's the only show or even the first, but in anime it's unique enough to surprise me. When I first watched it years ago, I didn't really get hooked and I never really completed it, but watching it now, I was really into it. I don't know if it was just me, but I was sucked into the show from beginning to end. Although it's not without its flaws. Its greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. There's a lot of moments where it cuts back to something we already saw, and most of the time it was from a previous episode, so it feels more like a quick refresher. And it's not like it's entirely void of tournament arc exposition, it's just that those scenes are so minimal I can count them on my hand. I guess my biggest critique is the action isn't really that impactful, and that just comes with the style. With everything being so still and quiet, I'm not surprised the action is too. It's not that it's poorly animated, it's just there's nothing else to it. It's no rhythm like John Woo, no risk-reward like Shane Black. It's so static it almost breaks the immersion. Like, we know they're gonna win. You could say that since it takes from 60s and 70s thrillers, it's doing just that. In those films, action was just obscene. And you could say that here, but there's so much emphasis on them that I can't really compare. So yeah, there's not much to the action, but with how it's structured, I'm not really surprised. By the way, I said everything is still, but it's still all hand-drawn. One of the last shows of the 2000s to do so. The colors have the really watercolor pop to them, along with the dark shading. There's usually a color with a scene, but the real standout is the backgrounds. They take advantage of the European setting to make most scenes look like a post-expressionist painting. Like, look at this, they're not trying to hide anything. Characters may not have a lot of action, but there's still plenty to look at. How about to listen to? The music is pretty good. It was composed by Yuki Kajiriya, who's done a lot of really good works, and this is only her third show. It ranges from operatic choir to house trance. The only problem I see is that it's all kind of the same rhythm. Yeah, you hear this pendant tune? That's the basis for the whole soundtrack. Ambitious, but it makes it all sound kind of the same, as most of the time it is. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but throughout the show I went from enjoying it to kind of tired of it, then coming full circle.
I am so sick of this song. Don't worry, I'm sorry.
Overall, the music's good, I just wish there was more of it. Also, I kind of want to mention the sound design, because it is about guns. It's okay. I feel like I've heard better. Each gun has their own sound, so it's pretty dynamic. Some feel really impactful, and others just kind of fall flat. It is in Dolby, so that's something. And yes, the sound is the same in Japanese and English. Speaking of English dub, it's good. Monica Ray is Kirika, Shelley Black is Marielle, Hilary Haig and Tiffany Grant. All the acting is really good, along with the mixing.
Is something wrong? I don't know why. I know how to do things like this.
It's one of those shows that aesthetically kind of works better in English. My only problem is that you think with them going where in the world is noir, there would be some accents, but it's more like only side characters. All the main characters have American accents. Yeah, they said they did this to not confuse the audience, but if anything, it does just that. You got this French guy and this Russian and even a New Yorker, and yet the other half of the cast speaks Midwestern American. They give an example of Patrick Swayze's accent in The Big Easy, and I'm like, dude, there was like 500 problems with that movie. Actually, Patrick Swayze wasn't even in The Big Easy. That was Dennis Quaid. It's not a huge problem, it's just a missed opportunity. I mean, listen to this scene where they're in Japan. They kept the Japanese background audio. That's so immersive, and yet it's just country road for the rest of the show. I also didn't know where to put this, but apparently for the longest time, Starz was trying to make a live-action series of it. I kind of have mixed feelings against live-action anime adaptations, but could noir work? I don't know. Maybe. And now I'm gonna talk spoilers, so if you don't want to hear them, skip here. With the legend of Noir going around, no one really knows if it's one person or two like the legend. Marielle and Kiria run into Chloe, a girl who wants to become Noir. Turns out you need to be chosen. 3 girls who fight for it and 1 dies. Chloe is very on and off her relationship with them, and while she's a main character, she's not really friendly. Athena is a high priestess of the Soldats who lives in an isolated small country between France and Spain. So, Andorra? Well, everyone's packing, so maybe it's Switzerland. She wants to bring back Noir, believing that the Soldats are corrupted, so to do this she does this ritual called the Grand Retour, basically the Battle of the Death. The Soldats Council obviously disagrees with this, so they become a split, nuns versus men in black. Athena stays in Andorra land, protecting the manor, and the council sends men in black to stop the chosen few. Yeah, they just keep throwing them out there. Noir itself was formed back in the Middle Ages, and basically is the strongest mafia out there. Kind of like the Knights Templar. Turns out Kiriko was raised from birth to be part of Noir, and one of her first tasks was to kill Marielle's family. Yeah, and they're like 8 years apart, which means she was like 5. And Chloe was there too, because of course she was. They have a breakup and take on Athena solo, but Kiria kills Chloe in a very impactful scene. This whole finale feels very video gamey, and even has a final boss near a volcano. But it's cool, Athena's plans still work out. All they need is for 2 of them to survive, and then Noir ritual is complete. If they kill her, they just let Les Soldats end, but at the same time becoming Noir. Well, they kill her in a lava pit and just say fuck it with the ritual. This reminds me of the ending to John Woo's The Killer. The show's answers are very broad. Why were the Soldats created? Map to reward to protect the weak. Why is Kirika Jason Bourne? She was just trained since she was young. Who killed Mariella's family? It was Kirika. In the parlor. With the Beretta. When she was 5. But overall, still pretty satisfying. I was still interested from beginning to end. Not to mention there was character dynamics. When Marielle finds out it was Kirika that pulled a Batman, it gets intense. And almost every reveal is like this. Like I said, it takes itself seriously, and you take it all in. Even when it gets too silly. If you haven't figured out by now, I love Noir. Even with all the little faults, it's still a great anime. Its characters are interesting and its story is just as engaging. While its animation doesn't hold much, there's still a lot there to look at. I don't think it's for everyone with its slow pacing and lack of dialogue, but if you want action crime thriller that doesn't hold your hand, Noir is where it's at. When doing this retrospective review thing, I was trying to go in with a very blank mindset to each show, so I don't get my hopes up. I still didn't want to compare it to Noir, I wanted to see it as its own thing. Well, I don't think I need to, because it feels as if Madlax wants you to know it's similar, but also different. There's a lot of plot points that feel similar, but also plenty of differences. Similarities like amnesia, globe-trotting adventure, underground crime, fixed with spirituality, girls and guns. The biggest difference, though, is that it's no longer episodic. Singular storyline is the name of the game. Unlike Noir, where I can sum up the first episode and leave you on your way, Madlax has much more branching story arcs, so the best I can do is give you characters. In the fictional war-torn country of Goth Sonica, located somewhere in Southeast Asia, they don't really show a map, a skilled mercenary named Madlax lives and works, but just can't remember her past. Meanwhile, in the peaceful European country Nafris, okay, I think that's just France, lives Margaret, a young girl who also can't remember her past, after a plane crashed in Goth Sonica, killing her mother, and her father presumably died in the war. The only thing she remembers is the word Madlax. There's also Eleanor, Margaret's maid and guardian. Vanessa, their neighbor whose company she works for, is tied with the Civil War. Limedella, you know what? I don't think they pronounced her name enough in the show for me to remember it. A lieutenant that holds a grudge against Madlax, and Friday Monday, just go with it, head of the crime organization Enfant. There's a lot that goes on in this show, and I don't even know how I'm gonna do a spoiler section. I kinda don't wanna. I don't mind the switch from episodic to ongoing, but I do mind how they tell it, talking to themselves. That's what we're doing. Okay, I'm one to talk. What was unique about Noir was how it was all told in a quiet, slow-paced narrative, where it seemed like they wanted to limit the amount of dialogue. And while it was far from a silent movie, it definitely stands out in comparison to other anime. Madlax kinda throws that out the window. I mean, I've seen worse, it's not DBZ, but visual storytelling is not the focal point. You could say because its animation is lacking a bit, Noir didn't have much movement going on, but its hand-drawn watercolors were more than enough. And here, Madlax stands in that awkward 2000s animation. Computers were just starting to get used, so colors kind of lost that pop. It can be used for good, but I don't think Madlax utilizes it very well. I don't know, it takes place in a war-torn country, so maybe it's kind of like a Mexico filter. The animation itself, I think, is a step up compared to Noir, but there's still little geography to tell me where everything is. It's more spectacle and even some suspense, but again, it's riddled with static shots and telling more than showing. Around the end, it gets pretty trippy. Don't tell me what it is. Please. The story is, again, I don't want to say bad, it's just a lot of words for just one task. It goes back and forth from Goth Sonica to Not France, and as per usual with A and B stories, you find to favor one over the other. On one hand, you got a mix of this, and the other's a little of this. When I say that out loud, it sounds pretty cool, but in practice, it comes off as slow. Noir was slow in an artistic way, but this is slow with delivery. It feels like they're trying to pad out story beats. I don't want to hate on it too much, it definitely feels like somebody cared. The writer Yusuke Kurudo has been screenwriting for a lot of works, but when he had one of his original projects rejected, he put out on his anger on this show. And there is evidence of good ideas. The name Madlax is a combination of mad and relaxed, as in everyone seems to have a dualism, Margaret being weak and moe, and Madlax being strong and willing to kill, Garsonica being war-torn and not France being peaceful. The problem is it doesn't go anywhere with that. Sure, there's not a lot of meaning in Noir, but again, it was artistic enough to hold itself, and I feel like you could put something there. The Soldats were a cult that were kind of sort of founded off of Christianity, and whether or not it's real is up for interpretation. I feel like it could be a comment on religion and the obsessiveness it brings. But in Madlax, nope. Up front, magic is real. Can you say Full Metal Alchemist? Okay, before we talk about spoilers, let's get into some stuff. I'm going to try to pad this out like the show. The music is really good. I think it's better than Noir, personally. While the opening and ending are okay, the rest of the music is really atmospheric. The problem with Noir's music is that it was a little too repetitive, but here I think it gets just enough. And yes, it's done by the same person. All three of these shows are. I also watched it in the English dub, and it's pretty well done. Lucy Christian as Margaret, Nancy Novoto, I can't even pronounce English. She's really fun. There's Kelly Manson, Kyria Davis, Mike Clinshand. Ah shit, it's Vic Mignogna. Well, he dies. At the end. The art style is pretty good. Everyone looks pretty unique. Margaret sometimes has braids. Okay, enough dancing around it. Time for spoilers. Help me, Wikipedia. You're my only hope. So, going back and forth, eventually Vanessa decides to go to Garsonica to find out what's really going on with her company in the war. Turns out they're funding both sides. In fact, the organization Offense has been funding it since the beginning. And their leader, not Pegasus, he has powers connected to 3 MacGuffin books, one of which Margaret has, and can restore her memories, but there's a page missing. Margaret and Eleanor go to Garsonica to help her cause, but Madlax is already there.
Weird night. Getting weirder.
Yeah, there's a little Yuri in here. It's not surprising seeing that B-Train worked on some, but in here they just don't commit. It's not the central focus. They run into some natives, Quinzata and Nakala. I'm not gonna fucking try. And they help with Margaret and Madlax having the 3 Egyptian god pages, which causes him to release his plan, which was commences a ritual to unleash people's inhibitions and trigger worldwide anarchy. It's a plan, but with the door of truth opened, we can see what really happened years ago. When Margaret crash-landed, killing her mother, her father was across the street in the war, and then Monday hypnotized him to try to kill Margaret. When Margaret killed him, she split into 2 personas. Well, technically 3, but she's just kind of a narrator, a memory keeper or whatever. Margaret being the kind, and Madlax being the willing to kill. They fusion, but Madlax is still alive? Whatever, she kills Pegasus, but with his Far Cry 2 respawning bullshit. And Margaret adopts the memory girl as her sister. Can you tell the writer was drunk when he wrote this? I mean, I didn't see it coming. It's unique enough to have something going on, but I can't find any more compliments. Madlax is okay. It's decent. I struggle to call it mediocre because I feel that's worse than calling it bad. At least with bad there's something to talk about, but with this I was really struggling to find something here, and when I finally did talk about it, I kinda didn't want to. Noir says a lot with little words, but Madlax uses too many to say nothing. But they try to say something. Somebody cared, and I kinda have to respect that. I recommend to try it out, but it's the hardest of the 3 to get your hands on. It wasn't re-released, so prices can get kinda high, and it's not on any legal streaming site. Although it was uploaded to YouTube in English dub in 2009. There's no harm in giving it a shot, but there's not much to it. After all that, I honestly felt a little burnt out. It's not like I was tired of watching cartoons or anything. I just don't think I could take pacing like the artsy noir or the all-over-the-place Madlax. But thankfully, the next show was a huge breath of fresh air. El Cazador de la Bruja is slightly similar to the previous installments. Rather than singular story of Madlax or the half-episodic, half-mainline story of Noir, El Cazador is full episodic. There is an ongoing story, yeah, but it really just makes up the last few episodes, and the B story, which doesn't even butt in all that much. Ellis is a girl with a bounty on her head. Why? Well, she doesn't know, because she has, say it with me, amnesia. Natalie, a bounty hunter, and was originally going to turn her in, but bounty hunting sucks and decides to help Ellis on her journey to uncover her past, and hijinks ensue. Like I said, coming back from Diet Tom Clancy, this show was so refreshing. It has that perfect blend of cute comedy and PG-13 action. You know a show is going to be awesome when it opens with the bar from Desperado. Ellis is a witch. Kind of. She has some powers, but they hint that it might have some scientific explanation. She just goes with the flow of everything in this mesmerized, confused look and just keeps saying yes sir to everything. Natalie is energetic as hell, probably the most expressive character in this whole show. Really, this whole series. Her facial animations are just really great. These two are opposites attract, and it's just so much fun seeing them go all out. Other characters are Jody Blue Eyes, a CIA worker who talks work on the B story, Rosenberg, the main antagonist, L.A., a crazy dude obsessed with Ellis and might be artificially created, it doesn't matter, Ricardo, another bounty hunter, and L'Oreal, a little girl who follows him around. And that's it. There's really not much of a story. Every episode is a different adventure. Since Noir took from European crime movies and Madlax took from Hong Kong action, foreign espionage, I don't know, it was everywhere. El Cazador takes from westerns. Like the name suggests, it's probably somewhere in Mexico. There's an episode where they use American money, and there's another one where they use pesos, so I guess it's near the border. That doesn't sound like standoff music. Actually, most of the music is really good. The opening's okay, but I love the ending. It has that melodic Japanese, but with a Latin swing. Sometimes I don't even know if it's Spanish or Japanese. Other songs can really be atmospheric and fit with the desert setting. It sounds like a mix between Xavier and Eyewitness. Who the fuck would get that? Like I said, there's not much to the story. It's all character driven through and through. Most episodes just start in the middle of some action and it just goes on with that. In fact, the action is the best out of the trilogy, but I still feel like it could be better. A lot of scenes got me hyped, but I feel like I've seen better. Again, it's not about that. These characters have cute attitude and it's just fun to see their reaction to everything. Everyone, even Blue Eyes, who's uptight, and L'Oreal, who is a cute mute. It feels like I'm not saying much, and that's because I'm still a little burnt out from watching 78 episodes in a month, but also because there's not much to it. It's a fun, cute road adventure across Mexico. I guess I can talk about the English dub. It's good. Probably the best out of the three. Trina Nishimura as Nadi brings a lot of energy. She brings over a lot of sarcasm and one-liners. It's great. Maxie Whitehead as Ellis is also really good, having that quiet, calm attitude, but bringing just enough energy to make it not sound like another Ray.
Come on! I only got one sip of the frickin' thing. I guess your cup is drunk. Stupid coffee!
Claire Harp as Blue Eyes gives that stim, boring attitude, almost too good. James McGrongell as L.A., a male yandere who works well. They have some of that random 2000s humor sprinkled throughout the show. Everyone sounds well produced. I even like how they give a little Spanish throughout the show. It's not a lot, just a word or two.
Una llamada, señorita. Lo siento, amigo.
Agua!
Although they do try hard, but sadly I think the taco song works better in Japanese.
Taco, taco, tacos, oishii tacos. Iketeru tacos wa amigo tacos.
That clip could summarize the whole show. Anything negative? I'll try, but I feel like I'll just be nitpicking. Maybe the pacing? It's not that slow, it's the fastest of the three, but it still has some moments where I feel like they could pick up the pace. They really do like to take their time explaining. It's like they could word it better. The B story wasn't all that interesting outside of Ellis's backstory, but it's not prominent. It still has those flashbacks like the other two, but again, it's like once an episode. Again, I can't find much. It's just all fun. Ellis's magic powers aren't used that much, so they kind of come out of nowhere sometimes. Kind of like a Deus Ex Machina. I didn't really care. Nothing that bad. Well, there are these two gay stereotype characters you see in the first two episodes. They're bounty hunters trying to find Ellis, and the whole punchline is that they're gay. It's not good, but again, they're only there for the first two episodes. And now spoilers. There's not much going on here, but I'll try. The show opens up with an explanation of Maxwell's demon, a thought experiment that proposes that the second law of thermodynamics might be violated and could somewhat how be controlled. This is kind of an explanation for Ellis's power, that she's just controlling molecules. She was raised by Hans Schneider, whatever, who was doing experiments on her, but they stopped because he's a nice person. Or was when he was mysteriously killed.
Say what?
Blue Eyes, who works for Rosenberg, director of the CIA, and obvious bad guy, originally she was supposed to capture Ellis, but changed and joined their side eventually. Rosenberg just said fuck it and does it himself. He wants to take Ellis's powers and take over the world or some shit. So Natalie has to kill Ellis to stop him, and after she dies, Natalie dies. But thanks to L'Oreal's exorcism, Blue Eyes now has witch powers. Sure. She revises Ellis, and Ellis revives Natalie, and they make it out in time for prom. Also, this episode starts with them hunting a puma. I love it. It's like, oh, normal wacky episode, but nope, finale. It's a good ending and satisfying enough, but wait, there's an epilogue that I don't know how to feel about. Years later, they work and live for an old couple with their past lives behind them. Friends with the sheriff, we see what everyone else is doing. You get the idea. Blue Eyes has a fetish for same-looking guys. That's one excuse for character design. But the place gets robbed, and Natalie and Ellis are forced to show their true faces in front of everyone. Who are the robbers?
Yeah, that's right, it's us.
And this is all your fault, bitches!
Oh my god, it's the gay guys from the beginning. That is dumb. That is so fucking dumb. If they were just a one-off offensive joke, I wouldn't mind it, but now they're a Chekhov's gun? They saved the town, and even though the couple agree not to tell anyone, they still decide to hit the road anyway. Then what was the point of this? You settle down for a year and a half, and even when you get a get-out-of-jail-free card, you still want to reboot. This is really weird. I'm not gonna say it ruins the show, but it's just a weird way to end it on. El Cazador is fun. It's just that. Out of the three shows, this is the one that doesn't take itself seriously. Noir took itself seriously enough and had an artistic vision. Madlax took itself too seriously but had no vision. It feels like they were tired of serious action and wanted to do a comedy. I'd almost call it underrated. Noir too, but I think that was well received at the time. It eventually got a Blu-ray release. El Cazador just got a save edition. It's a fun, episodic PG-13 action with a Latin twist. I think it's unique enough to give it a watch. Well, that's the Girls with Guns trilogy. What did we learn? I don't know. We have a really good artsy first show, a all-over-the-place second show, and a really fun, underrated third show. I guess I would recommend all three, but just do keep in mind what you get into. I don't know how else to end it. This was fun to make, kind of hard. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna end it here. So, yeah, I guess this is an ending, so, blah.
I'll tell you.